for today, I'll be presenting, or I'll be giving an overview on what I have done or what I have accomplished during the sabbatical last November 2018 in Ithaca, New York. So yeah, so the objective of the sabbatical was first for me to acquire the expertise in software quality processes, which include agile practices, automated UI testing, and automated build and deployment. And by acquiring this expertise, I can share the knowledge across other team members in our cluster. Right. And second is both for the GOBii and B4R to research and develop skills in automated UI testing. So previously, neither GOBii and nor B4R employ automated UI testing. So this sabbatical will be an opportunity for both teams to develop the capacity to further improve quality processes, to reduce defects delivered to the field. And lastly, to enhance the collaboration between the GOBii and B4R teams. So this is the timeline of the sabbatical. So the duration of the sabbatical was 1 month. So for the first week, it was more on introduction to the GOBii project and B4R. So overview on the technologies used, the infrastructure, and the development processes, and the tools, the Atlassian tools, so the Jira, Bitbucket, and Bamboo, and how they are used both in B4R and GOBii. And then discussion on the sabbatical activities, schedule of activities. Right. So the screen, right. And then for the second week, there was a progress meeting and implementation of the test scripts for the extractor UI for GOBii, and then for the creation of test cases for the B4R dashboard. So the objective was to select one tool for GOBii and then one tool for B4R. So for GOBii, it's the extractor UI, and for B4R, it's the dashboard. And then on the third week, continuation on the implementation of this of the test scripts for B4R, and then the scripts were integrated to the Selenium tests in B4R's Bamboo, and then demonstration on the progress to the GOBii team, and then we had continuation on adding improvements on the test scripts on the last week, and then final demonstration. So, right. So the primary goal of the tester is to find bugs, but it's not only about that. The main goal of the software tester is to assess the overall quality of the product, and their role is very important in software development. So the management, most of the times, they do not really care as to what and how many bugs the tester found. They are interested whether the system is ready to be delivered. Is ready to be delivered or not. So their role is very important in software development. So software tester can answer the question because he or she knows the status of the product in terms of fulfilling the requirements and expectations very well. So it's very important to ensure the quality of the product. The quality of the product delivered to the customer helps in gaining their confidence. So they may not adopt software if they are not happy with the stability of the application. So automated testing. So automated testing relies on prescripted tests that are run automatically. So the function is to compare actual results with the expected results. And automated testing aims to reduce the number of test cases that are run manually and repetitively but they do not eliminate manual testing altogether. So it only reduces the effort associated with manual testing. Manual testing, on the other hand, it requires human intervention for test execution. So the testers execute their test cases without any automation tool. And any new application must be manually tested first before its testing can be automated. So it requires more effort, but it's necessary to check the automation feasibility. Right. So why do we need automated testing? So first, to handle time-consuming and repetitive tasks. So in agile software development, after new feature or tool has been added to the system, we need to verify that existing features and functionality still work properly and behave as expected. So this task is repetitively done and can require time and effort. So with automation, this task can be done with less time and effort. Next is to improve the testing accuracy. So when automation of important test cases are already implemented, the chance of missing a bug or a defect decreases since automated tests are powered by tools and scripts. So skipping a functionality during testing is avoided due to time restriction, and it eliminates human error. And it does not require human intervention. So since the test scripts are run automatically, you can give the test execution even overnight. And then it increase speed test execution and test coverage. So with automation, you can test more in lesser time. And the reporting is easy. The automation tool generates test reports, which will have the total number of test execution as well as total number of successful failed tests. Right. So there are some cases that automation is not suitable. So for newly designed and not executed manually, or at least once, and then test cases which requirements are frequently changing, and test cases which are executed on ad hoc basis. So for ad hoc testing is executed without preparation on and written test cases. So during ad hoc testing, QA specialist randomly tests the functionality of the system, and the aim is to be creative and break the system and discover flaws. So, and tests simply cannot detect the sizes, colors, and layouting of positioning. So it is not applicable for testing the user interfaces, the testing, especially the visual effects, right? And then, so these are the cases where the manual testing is best. So UI UX acceptance. So for manual testing, it is used when testing graphical user interfaces, especially on visual aspects. So automated tests simply cannot detect the font sizes, the colors. And then for initial development stage, manual testing helps the testers to detect the bottlenecks during the initial stage of the development, which results in less time and resources being spent on fixing the bugs. And it is also used best in short-term projects. So employing test automation can take time and resources to design and maintain them. And it can be more efficient to rely on manual testing for some cases like building promotional website. So in general, automated testing have their strengths and weaknesses, and automated testing proves to provide a lot of advantages. However, we cannot rely only on this approach. So we cannot automate everything. Manual and testing and automated testing should go hand in hand. Okay. So even though the manual testing is primitive in nature, it is still important as certain functionalities simply cannot be automated. So manual testing should be done first before you can automate. And one of the key principles in testing is that we cannot automate everything. So it is still necessary to test manually. Right. So this is the automation test automation process. So the first is the selecting the tool for automation. So it is largely dependent on the technology that the application to be tested is built on. So in selecting the tool, we should think its ease of use and can be easily fixed if in case there is a bug, and whether it supports creating test reports and test results. And then the next step is defining the scope of the automation. So the points that will help determine the scope is common functionalities across applications, and then features that are that are important to the business, and the technical feasibility. And then next is the planning, design, and development. So we can create automation strategy and plan which contains the following. So we should consider the schedule and timeline of scripting and execution, and the deliverables of the automation testing. And then the actual test execution. So the automation scripts are executed. And then maintenance. So new tools will be added to the system, and the automation test scripts are needed to be added, so reviewed and maintained for each release cycles. So if we develop quality software, it needs best practices. So it needs code reviews to write quality code. So it's like we're also this. It's like what we're doing when we're developing new applications. So we should also follow best practices when we are creating the test scripts. And so what is automated UI testing? So the test the system from user's point of view, and it mimics the user interaction. So it captures the interactions in the form of a test and making assertions along the way. And yeah, so automated UI testing is hard and could be a waste of time. So do not do it, or do it right. Right. So these are the things that we should keep in mind when we are for automated UI testing. So we should assign IDs to the UI elements. So it will have the easiest way to locate the elements. And when we change the layout, the ID will the identifier of the elements will remain the same. So so we have to add identifier to each UI elements, and we should avoid updating the layout frequently. Right. So this is the steps on how the UI test automation is implemented, both for GOBii and B4R. So these are the technology used. So Selenium, which is an open source software testing framework for web applications that is portable, and Python as a programming language for writing the test scripts. So it is an interpreted object-oriented high-level programming language which with dynamic semantics, and it's simple and easy to learn. And for the Bamboo was used for the, so both B4R and GOBii use Bamboo for CI/CD, continuous delivery framework. So right. So this is how you set up the testing environment. So we have the Selenium, installing Python, and then Chrome driver. And we have for reporting, for XML reporting. And this is the directory structure for writing and running the test script. So we have the folder for the test reports, and then we have this configuration properties where we can modify the values that we can pass in our test scripts, and then the actual test script. So this is a sample configuration file that was used. And so this is how the code looks like when we're defining the test script. So this part is we initialize the test scripts, and it's called initially for every test function. And here you can define if you want to run the test scripts in headless mode. So if we run the test scripts in headless mode, the browser will not load, or you cannot see how it's we navigate through each pages. So we use this headless mode for when we integrate it in our in the Bamboo. And then, so all the test cases should start with the text test, and the test cases are run alphabetically. And this is how you navigate. So for this, it will open the browser with this given URL. And then we want to add assertion. So here you will check if you have this text, if the title of the browser has this text GOBii extractor, and if it failed, then it will return an error message. And then finding an element. So in Python, you have a lot of ways to identify the element using locators. So you can find by ID, by name, XPath, link text, partial link text, by tag name, class name, or CSS selector. So many options. And then send keys. So it just mimics the user behavior of typing in an input field. And then click, which basically clicks an element, and then the teardown. So it is every test cases. So it is run every test cases. And then this part is where we generate the XML file for the reporting. So we need this part for it to be able to be read in the Bamboo. And this part is important to display the failed tests in Bamboo. And this is how we run the test scripts in Python. So for this part, we can run it in headless mode. So it's specified in the script that you've created. And these are the tasks that were added in Bamboo. So for us to integrate the test scripts. So first, it gets the code of the test scripts is stored in Bitbucket repository. So the first task is to gather the code in Bitbucket, and then we have this script to replace the configuration file. So in Bamboo, there is a way there to define the variables. Yeah. So the task for this part is just to replace what you have defined in the configuration file. So let's say there are information that should not be specified in the code. There is a way there to modify and get that specific variable that we have identified or specified in the bamboo. And then the command itself to run the Python script in headless mode. And we have this JUnit parser to parse the generated test result XML file. So in this part, it will be the XML code will be parsed to display the error and the success results. So it basically displays the test results, right? So this is the sample interface if the all the tests were successful. So for successful, it will just display how many tests were executed, and you will see the duration for each test cases. And you can see here the name of the test case. Right. And then here's the sample interface when we have error in the test cases. So if the test cases has error, then it will display more information. So here you can see the reason why the test failed, and also the duration. Yeah. So basically, that's how we have integrated the test scripts in our CI/CD framework, both for GOBii and B4R. Right.
Okay. Thank you, Jahzeel. Before we go to the next presenter, I just want to remind everybody that I'm recording this session for those who cannot join today. So I'm going to forward the recording to Star, who will make it available to everyone. Okay, let's now go to the next presenter.
Good morning, world. So again, I'm Dolores Pagtananan from IRRI and part of the B4R team. So this will be my outline of today's presentation, the whys of implementing testing process to the B4R system, the overall B4R workflow overview, the hows of the implementation, including the QC checklist or quality control checklist, the testing process, the test execution, and finally the integration to the EBS testing across software life cycle. Okay, so the whys. Why do we need to implement a testing process to the B4R system? So as a background, I joined the B4R team last February, and I was responsible and currently responsible to the overall testing process. So our first reason on why to implement a testing process is so that we could find as many faults as possible and feel confident that the software is reliable. And the next reason is that to be able to help our stakeholders, partners, collaborators to evaluate the quality of the tested product version. This is for the main reason that we would want to deliver a good quality software product to our partners and to our users. So here is a diagram of the overall workflow of the B4R. So as you can see, in green rectangle is the development workflow. They started to backlog, then to do, and then the in progress is more on the coding part. And for every development issues that are implemented, it is turned into resolve issues. And then in review, and this done with testing is more on the peer testing between the development team. This one highlighted in dotted red lines are the ones we introduced when we implemented the testing process for the B4R. So we have the past QCT status and the past FT or past functional testing. So after every development issues are done with their peer testing, it will now go to our side and we will determine if there are issues or defects in the specific modules that we are testing. So just background also, the quality. Okay. So the quality control testing is focused mainly on the application testing and the integration testing of the different modules of the B4R system. So if there are no issues on our side, it will now pass to the functional testing. But if there are, then we will tag the developers or the development team involved in a specific tool to fix first the issues that we found. And after it is a specific development issue past QCT and past functional testing, it will now be moved to the demo consisting of the different target users and as well as the requirements analyst before it goes to the candidate release. Okay, so more on that later for this past QCT process. So now the hows. So we decided to create a past QCT status in the overall workflow as depicted earlier, this one in orange, in the orange box, past QCT. And then we decided to research on the test management tool compatible with Jira platform. So currently there is no test management tool that is being used by B4R. And then come February, we decided to introduce Zephyr. It's a Jira add-on for test management that is compatible with Jira, the one used by the development team for their development issues management. So with the introduction of Zephyr, we can now have this test issue type. So before there is just the task, bag, improvements, and the others, and there is no specific issue type for test. And then on our team of 2 members, me and Philip, we decided to define what a QC checklist is before our testing. And then gradually, we define the testing process and the test execution. Okay, the QC checklist. So whenever there is a development or the fixed version development, we will use the current tool fixed version. This is the format, tool fixed version for our QC fixed version. And then we will create a QC testing parent task in Jira. So this is the task format. QC testing for example is the nursery creation 19.08 or 19.07, the previous version. And then for the third item on our checklist is the QC fixed version test cycle. So in Zephyr, we will use this format, the tool fixed version. This test cycle is where all our test cases will be put into for execution. So in detail, the QC checklist consisting of the fixed version or the QC fixed version again will be the same for the development fixed version. So here is an example. So here we have the nursery creation phase 1 19.07. So this is the previous version of the experiment creation that we tested. So along with the development task is the QC parent task, which is this one, B4R 1919, the QC testing for nursery creation, 1907. And then that's the parent task. And then all related test issues are added to a test cycle. If we click here, so this part is on the Zephyr, then it has the cycle summary. So here, so these are examples of unexecuted test cases. For the list of executed test cases for nursery creation, let's see this. So this one named so this test cycle named Component Testing Iteration 1 contains the list of past test cases for nursery creation 1907. So if you will see in the defect column, for B4R 1243, it has the defect that is already confirmed because this version is already a released version. So another one is this one. So for B4R 1551, this test initially has also one defect. So you can immediately see which test cases have particular issues during our testing. And for example of the unexecuted test cases, so this one. So we named this test cycle regression testing. So basically it's just a cycle name, but the focus is to retest or regress on the previous functionalities of a specific tool. So for our test cases, it can have the pass, fail, work in progress, or a black status. And in this Zephyr platform, this is where we execute our test cases. So this E icon here is the execute, the actual execution of a test case. So yeah, if you click on the execute button, it will direct you to the, it's loading. So yeah. So again, initially a test case has the status unexecuted. And for the different steps, you should also specify if a specific test has passed or failed or it is blocked by another feature. And then this is, there's this column defect. So if a certain step fails, then you can directly create a defect. This Zephyr platform is linked to a Jira platform, so you can create a defect from here. So yeah. So basically, those three items are our QC checklist. So as I have mentioned, the testing process as part of the how-to is first we set up a test cycle for a fixed version. Again, fixed version is just the release version. And then second step is we create or clone an existing test. Third step is to add that to a test cycle, the one we showed earlier. And then for the execution, it's the fourth step. And the fifth step is to file a bug if there are issues found. So here is a link for the detailed workflow of this structured execution planning that we patterned our testing process for the B4R application. And next is the test execution flow in Zephyr. So this is the one I've shown earlier also. So from test case to do status, once it is executed, we mark this as in progress. If everything goes well, then it goes to, or we mark it as done. But if there are issues found, then we file a bug, and then once the bug is resolved, we reopen that test case and proceed with our validation and verification of the fix. And if everything is okay, then we mark it as done. So for the list of quick links on how we develop our test, how we modify our test, and planning the test cycle from to the execution, and how we map the defects. Here are the quick links. Okay. So moving forward, we would want to integrate our QC testing process or quality control testing process across the EBS testing. So in this diagram, so part of the, in parallel with coding, is the unit testing and integration testing for the first 2 weeks of the sprint. And then next is the application testing. So in the case of B4R, it is the, for example, nursery creation and the list management tool will be part of the integration testing. And for the application testing, it's the whole B4R. So right now, our current setup is that we are doing some integration testing and mostly application testing. But since we're working on this EBS testing, synchronization across different EBS components, we would now employ this unit testing part. So the one discussed by Jahzeel on the automation process would be our guide for the unit testing. And so after all this unit testing, integration testing, and application testing for the 3 weeks, once all issues are okay, it will pass the QC testing. It is now ready for user acceptance testing on the 4th week. And after all these testing stages on the sprint level, we will produce this test artifact. So more of this on our EBS workshop for the testing methodologies. And yeah, so this is it. We want to align our B4R testing process with the EBS testing process that we're developing on this 2-week workshop. And our action items. So basically, we want to streamline the current B4R testing process by integrating the EBS testing methodologies that are still currently in progress during this 2-week workshop here in CINIT. We would want to have a hands-on on the Azure or MTM platform that the sample manager is currently using for their testing activities. And as I've mentioned, the delivery of a testing artifact for every fixed version. So after every sprint testing, we would deliver this testing artifact. So it's a must-have for every EBS components. And then, as part of our discussion also from last week, the QC team or the testers will be participating in the requirements discussion at the early stage together with the requirements analysts and the development team, so as to have a common understanding of the features or the product requirements that are to be implemented for a specific tool or a specific component. So basically, that's it for the phase, for the current setup of our B4R testing process. Back to you, Pedro.
Thank you so much for the presentations. Do you guys have any question?
Yes, I do have a question. This is a really nice overview of Zephyr, and here at the GOBii team, we have been looking for test management tools to incorporate into IRRI. So thanks a lot for the overview. One question I had, which wasn't exactly clear, is that in Zephyr, when you're doing the regression test, is this linked to an instance of B4R that executes these tests directly in the environment, or how does the regression test work?
Currently, the regression testing is mainly the test steps are manually entered in the Zephyr platform. So when you do regression testing, you just follow the steps. But since we are having this 2-week workshop here in CNIT, we would want to make use of their automation testing on the MTM platform. So I just don't know yet how the MTM platform would link our Zephyr test cases, for example, on the regression test cases.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions? If there's no more question, then let us adjourn the meeting. I have recorded this session, and I'm hearing
I have a
Marco.
question.
Okay, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought my microphone was unmuted, but it wasn't.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for a very comprehensive presentation to both of the presenters. And I would like to ask whether you are also considering execution / performance / load testing to see if the software is what kind of resources are needed, etc., to run the software.
Yeah, Marco. From our last week workshop, when we start to define these testing methodologies, we kind of discussed the performance testing. So an example would be we will exhaust the system to have 1,000 instance of users trying to use the system or trying to retrieve a request. So on that part, we don't know yet what particular strategy or framework we will use for performance testing, but it's part of the pipeline for the testing on the EBS level.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any more, guys? Please unmute your microphones before you ask the question. Okay, so if there's no more question, we'd like to thank Jahzeel and Dolores for this very nice session on testing. And we are, as I have mentioned, I have recorded the session today, and I'm going to send it to Star or to share it with anybody who was not able to join today's session. So have a nice day, guys. Have a good night. See you on the next session.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.